All right, we're live, I think. Show number two, National Signing Day. We're just going to go off the top of the dome, go through all the recruits. Georgia finishing number one, that's what we like to see. Alabama in at 2, Clemson in at 3, LSU at 4, Ohio State 5, Texas A&M, that'll really help them at 6. If you watch my last stream, I kind of talked about how A&M really needs names on their team. And back to back, I think they were 4th last year, now 6th this year. So they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. I don't know if it'll be this year, but next year for sure. Auburn at 7, Florida at 8, Texas at 9, and so Texas beating Oklahoma. That'll do them some good. And Tennessee coming in at 10. So very SEC heavy top 10. Tennessee in at 10 is obviously fantastic for them. Even though they're a rival of Georgia and an SEC East team, I kind of like Tennessee. I don't know, I just do. And them being in the top 10 despite such a terrible start to last year is very interesting. If they would have been like a 10-win team if they beat BYU and Georgia State, which they would 99 times out of 100, at least for Georgia State. Yeah, so they got a future, provided Jeremy Pruitt can keep them playing like they were in the back half of last year. They have a big future. Oklahoma in at 11. So no 5 stars for Oklahoma this year. Just not their best class. They lost guys like Jace McClellan. Yeah, I don't know. And then they've lost Brock Vandegrift. I know he's 2021, but yeah, things not really looking up for Oklahoma right now. Their current roster is very good with like Spencer Rattler and like Jaden Hazelwood and stuff like that, and like Theo Weiss. But so they'll still be good, but I don't know. It just seems like everyone's got a bit of Oklahoma fatigue, including commits. But still, I mean, 11. You can't complain with that. You'd just expect Oklahoma to be, a top 5, top 10 team in recruiting. Oregon in at 12 with 3 5 stars. That's huge. Miami in at 13. Somehow people want to go to Miami right now. Michigan in at 14, despite I don't think they have a player in the top 100, so that's quite interesting. Penn State in at 15, which kind of makes sense given all the kind of things that are coming out of their program right now. This was a bad cycle for them. No 5 stars, only 11 4 stars. And people are hyping Penn State up this year, so they're going to have to really try cash in on a year like this because, I mean, I know recruiting rankings aren't the be-all and end-all and don't tell the full story, but yeah, a class like that is not good. Washington at 16, they're the second Pac-12 team with a 5-star, Savell Smalls. We'll get to that later. Notre Dame at 17. With a tiny class of only 17 commits. They got a 5-star, they got 8 4 stars. A couple of those 4 stars were 5 stars at one stage, so I think that this recruiting class might be a bit underrated, especially they're so low with only 17 commits. I'm going off the 24/7 composite rankings here. South Carolina at 18 with a 5-star and 8 4 stars, so I guess Jordan Burge, I don't know if he still hasn't actually signed his letter of intent or not, but he appears to be going to South Carolina. So that's 2 back-to-back 5 stars on the defensive line for them. North Carolina coming in at 19. I think Mac Brown's building something good here. They've found their quarterback, who's actually quite good, and with a big recruiting class like this, 9 4 stars. I think they're going places. North Carolina. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to contend for the ACC with Clemson there, but I think in the coming years, provided Mac Brown kind of keeps up this pace, I think we'll get used to seeing North Carolina as a regular top 25 team. Nebraska in at 20. Nebraska fans probably hoping by, what is this, year 2 or 3 of the Scott Frost era, that they'd be doing a little better than this in recruiting. Florida State, how the mighty have fallen, 21. I think this is pretty much rock bottom for Florida State. I can't imagine their new coach can do any worse than Willie Taggart. Mike Norvell, his name? Yeah, that's him, right? And So 21, I think this is the bottom of Florida State will ever be, and the effects of this kind of recruiting class will be felt a little bit into the future. But I think it can only go up from here, for such like a prestigious program. It's Stanford at 22, Arizona State at 23. That's a program a bit on the rise. Kentucky at 24, Wisconsin at 25, and I won't go much further. Just some noticeable teams that are right down here. We've got Michigan State at 43, obviously with Mark D'Antonio now leaving at the worst time. What can you say? That program's hit its peak and it's well on the way down now. Missouri at number 50 with only one 4-star. I can't say I know how Missouri usually recruits, but I don't know. I guess that's a developmental program. We got USC at 54. How the mighty have fallen. Like I said with Florida State, this is ridiculous. And was keeping Clay Helton a good decision at all? Clearly not. He could come out and prove me wrong. I'm very interested to see with USC what happens with the whole JT Daniels and Caden Slover's situation, because Slover's played really well, but Daniels was a freak. Like Daniels was a 5-star, who was he didn't get much hype. Well, he did, but not as much as usual because he was in the same class as Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. But any other class, he probably would have been the number one guy. So that's pretty interesting. He's got, if Slovers can't do well, if Clay Helton can't do well with those two guys battling it out for quarterback, then he's not your guy. USC at 54 is ridiculous. As I keep going down, UCF at 70, so they're obviously a flash in the pan. That's not happening again. Top 100 is kind of who you expect now. It's really thinning out. I know no one really cares this far down. Yeah, Princeton seems to do surprisingly well at recruiting. That's quite funny, actually. 129, beating schools like Idaho. Now we're getting to the Ivy League territory, so we're not going to go down there. Let's go on to the players now. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of the players quickly and what I think they can do. I'm not going to spend forever on guys like Brian Brzee. What can you say? He's obviously a freak. Him and Miles Murphy, the number 7th ranked recruit going to Clemson on the defensive line. So Clemson is reloading, not rebuilding. I don't know what else I need to say about that, honestly. Bryce Young to Alabama. So this is a bit more interesting because he'll come in and compete straight away with Mac Jones. So he's obviously going to leapfrog Bear Bryant's grandson and Talia Tagovailoa. So I wouldn't be surprised if they transferred. Especially, Talia might. That'd be interesting to see him play somewhere else. And if I was him, I'd kind of want to. I don't want to live in my brother's shadow. I'd want to go to maybe even LSU or something. So Bryce Young will be interesting. Him and Mac Jones. I'm going to say that I think Mac Jones will win it just because Saban, the argument is that Saban usually goes with a more experienced guy, but obviously we haven't seen that lately. The whole Tua and Jalen situation really that was kind of the end of that. So Bryce Young definitely has a chance. 5'11", 183. And I know that these kind of measurements, they usually put players a bit heavier than they really are because I think they might weigh them with gear on. I don't know if that's true or not. But so he's pretty small and, he'll obviously bulk up in an off-season at Alabama. But 5'11", 183 in the SEC, I think he might have a bit of a rough time. But Alabama's O-line is usually good enough to keep him protected. I'm still going to go with Mac Jones. We see 2 pick sixes in the Auburn game, but one of them was hardly his fault, and it just the ball bounced around. Things go well for Auburn sometimes in that stadium; they just do, and that's all we can say. Even though I picked Auburn to win that game, they obviously got lucky a bit with those kinds of plays. But that's a story for another time. Julian Fleming at number 3. Going to Ohio State. Ohio State just does sneaky good with these receivers. They've got is his name Garrett Wilson, guys like that who it's just another weapon for Justin Fields, and he'll come in day one and he'll probably be 3rd string or something. Not an expert on the Ohio State program, but yeah. So again, what can you say? Um, Keely Ringo at number 4, so a 6'2", 205 corner, so big for a corner. Um, a lot of people speculating that he might be playing safety at the next level. He's going to Georgia, of course, and I think I could see that happening, but I can sort of Georgia uses slot corners, not kind of as traditional, really small, fast slot corners, but guys who kind of play the run a little bit more. Like, I don't know if I'm making that up, but like guys like Tyreek Stevenson. Um, we saw him last year making some plays from kind of in the middle of the field as a cornerback, and he was kind of a strong, aggressive guy. So I think Keely Ringo could have a role similar to that. He'll get on the field because Georgia loves to rotate so much on defense, and that's a great get. You know, number 4 player in the country. I'm really happy with Keely Ringo. Number 5, Arik Gilbert at LSU. This guy is just an absolute freak. He's listed as a tight end. He's 6'5", 250, but he's like a wide receiver. He will be a mismatch nightmare. He will be a first-round draft pick. I wish Georgia got him. Arik Gilbert is an absolute freak going to LSU. So again, he's going to start this year. I believe at least. He'll play tight end, but you can just move him all over the field. You can split him out wide. He's got so much speed. He'll just be like Rob Gronkowski. If you put him on someone as fast as him, he's going to be bigger and stronger than them. And if you put him on someone the same size as him, well, he's just going to be able to outrun him easily. Like this, Arik Gilbert is going to be a name you'll hear about for a long, long time. He's an absolute super freak. Great get for LSU. And that's like a tight end wide receiver hybrid, a bit like Jimmy Graham in his prime, I reckon. He'll just be able to do everything. I don't really know what his blocking is like, but he'll more than make up for it with his receiving. I'm not saying he's a bad blocker. I don't really know. Like, I haven't watched hours of him blocking on tape, believe it or not. Now, number 6, Justin Flo, and I'm going to talk about him and number 13, Noah Sewell, in the also both Oregon commits in the same kind of. I'm going to talk about them both at once because they'll kind of go together nicely. They're both inside linebackers at Oregon. And I think, does Oregon play a 3-4? Is Thibodeau like a 3-4 outside linebacker? Because if so, then they can easily get 2 inside linebackers on the field at the same time. I mean, they'll find a way to regardless. But those 2 and Thibodeau in the front 7, plus other guys Oregon have who are no slouches at all. That's a big. I mean, like people are saying, Mario Cristobal is building an SEC type of team at Oregon with big guys up front, and I mean, having 2 5-star inside linebackers committing, that's huge. They'll obviously start right away. It'll be exciting to see week 2 Ohio State. I think it's week 2 Ohio State at Oregon. And these 2 will need to have big games. And that's a big ask because it'll be either the first or second game in college. But, 5-star guys, they'll step up to the plate. And it'll be up to, I think, people like them to stop like Justin Fields scrambling around and stuff like that, which is how Ohio State picked up so many yards and third down conversions last year. So that's a huge get for Oregon. Who would have thought Oregon with 5 stars all over the defense? How times have changed. So yeah, Miles Murphy, mentioned him before, is a bit like Brian Brzee. He's the number 7th player in the country, committed to Clemson. I mean, what can I say that you don't already know? Obviously, he'll be a freak too. Brian Brzee and Miles Murphy will cause a lot of problems in years to come. Number 8 player in the country, Jordan Birch, defensive tackle out of South Carolina, and he's going to South Carolina. So 6'5", 275, so he's probably tiny bit on the lighter side for a defensive tackle. I don't know if I'm right with that. But yeah, that's a great get for South Carolina. They need those wins because, I mean, I don't think Will Muschamp is a great coach. I don't think he's getting the most out of these kinds of players. But usually when I watch South Carolina play, they looked quite passive against the run, where they kind of just sat back and kind of let teams run towards them rather than really plugging gaps and being disruptive. And so Jordan Birch is exactly the kind of person that South Carolina needs right now. They got to, in the SEC, it all starts with the D-line, even though we're moving to more of spread kind of a system, you need to be good on the D line. You just have to be. And Jordan Birch was at once ranked the number 1 player in the class, so that's a very big get for South Carolina. LSU came in really hard at the end, but were ultimately unsuccessful. So number 9, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle going to Ohio State. I don't know much about this guy. I haven't really watched much of him, but Ohio State continuing to recruit at a very high level, way higher than anyone else in the Big Ten. So I think it's going to be more of the same in the Big Ten if Ohio State keeps getting this kind of caliber of player, so 6'7", 290. So he'll probably fill out a bit. I mean, if I'm a Michigan fan right now, I'm just kind of thinking I don't see much of a light at the end of the tunnel, really. The only positive is a quarterback Michigan has in 2021, J.J. McCarthy, because we know that obviously quarterbacks can single-handedly win games. If Michigan is ever going to beat Ohio State at this rate, it's going to be on the back of just some super freak player like that, and he's going to have to step up to a whole new level. That he's going to have to be the Tua or the Trevor Lawrence of Michigan if Michigan's ever going to beat Ohio State at this rate. Because I mean, look at that, 2 players in the top 9 are going to Ohio State. Michigan, I don't think has a player in the top 100. Like, you tell me. Broderick Jones, number 11th player in the country. So he's going to Georgia. Auburn came hard late, but thankfully he's not going there. I don't know why you'd want to. He's a hometown kid from Georgia, and 6'5", 298, who's pretty big. Apparently he's a bit slimmer at the moment because he's playing basketball. And there's all this talk about how Matt Luke at Georgia wants like a more mobile offensive line. And yeah, I think that's probably good because the O-line last year was, I mean, obviously it was great in terms of names, but it didn't really live up to expectation. But yeah, as a Georgia fan, I love to see us reloading. Yeah, that's kind of all I can say, really. Gervon Dexter going to Florida, number 12, so defensive tackle. I guess Dan Mullen needed this recruiting win because, I mean, he's a guy who's kind of shot up the rankings as of late. But Florida, finally getting a 5-star. Mullen still can't recruit, but, every now a broken clock is right twice a day. And he's going to need to be an immediate impact day one, because if you're going to stop the run game of teams like Georgia and Tennessee, it all starts at the D-line. I think this was probably a good position to get a 5-star for Florida, as opposed to like another wide receiver or something, because those guys are playing at an elite level anyway. So it's probably good for them to have the talent kind of a bit more dispersed around the field. I don't know much about it. I mean, I watched his highlights. He looked a little slow, but just giant compared to everyone he's playing against. And I think he's going to be more of a run stopper at the next level. But, I mean, anytime you get a 5-star at any position, you'll be happy with that. So we're going to go on to Skip Noah Sewell, because we talked about him going to Elias Ricks, cornerback, going to LSU. So DBU is reloading. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a role he plays this year. Obviously, Stingley has got 1 cornerback spot down. I don't know who their second string will be, because like Christian Fulton is going to the NFL, I think. Yeah. So Elias Ricks, another 5-star corner. He's from California, which is interesting. But he probably chose the right place going to LSU. 6'2", 192, so very good size for a corner. So I mean, it probably means he's quite lengthy as well. And I think he'll just have barring something dramatic happen, I think he'll just have like a typical LSU defensive back career, probably be a high draft pick. He's a 5-star, great get for LSU. I don't think they'll be as good as they will. I think last year was the dream season. I think everyone thinks that, but LSU will not just drop out and become insignificant. They are still getting guys, elite guys, and they've still got Ensminger and Coach O there, and people still want to go there. That's what we've already talked about, 2 5-stars going to LSU. So they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't know if it'll all come together again like it did last year. I mean, obviously it might, but No, they'll always be a factor in the SEC West. They're not going anywhere. Just because they've lost a lot of players and coaches and stuff, they'll still be a great team. So number 15, Bijan Robinson going to Texas. Texas needs these recruiting wins, especially after the disappointment the last season was. They're a little thin at the running back position, so I think it was a pretty good pickup for them. Keontae Ingram and him might share carries. I presume. Am I missing someone else on their roster? Again, guys, sorry, I'm just going straight off the top of the head. So if I'm making any mistakes regarding rosters or anything like that, I apologize. Yeah, I don't know what else you can say about him. Really, it's a good get. 6 foot, 200. So he's kind of on the. I don't know. That's reasonable size for a running back, I guess. A bit taller, but a bit lighter than a lot. And yeah, Tom Herman needed a player like this. They need to keep the ball rolling because they can't. They got to stay in the flames, I guess. They said they were back, and then last year they kind of showed they weren't. But I think the loss to LSU really took the wind out of their sails early in the season because so much rode on that game, and losing it in. I mean, they played them well. They were very competitive, and they only just lost. So yeah, I think Tom Herman needs to keep recruiting at a high level. Otherwise, I think Texas is just going to kind of flame out, and Tom Herman will be looking for another job. Number 16, Zachary Evans. So I'm not really going to comment on this. I'm guessing there's off-field issues. I don't want to speculate or make any rumors about someone I don't know. For whatever reason, he's not really signing with anyone today. He'll play college football. He's too good not to. Someone will take him, but I don't want to delve into that. Number 17, Will Anderson. Is this the first Alabama player? No, Bryce Young, of course. So a weak side defensive end, 6'3", 230, 5-star Will Anderson going to Alabama. And there's a couple of Alabama players down here. So Alabama did finish number 2 in the recruiting rankings, but it really feels like people kind of, I mean, are we doubting them? Is it a mistake to doubt them? They didn't make the playoff last year, and now losing guys like Tua and Judy, but they got guys coming back, and this is showing that this recruiting class is showing that they are still a force to be reckoned with. So I don't want to doubt them just yet. Obviously, I want to see the end of the dynasty as much as anyone does. But yeah, no, I'm still not doubting them. Nick Saban's obviously still got it. I mean, he's got 4 5-stars in this cycle. They're not going anywhere. Defensive end, and that's the same with Will Braswell, who's also a weak side defensive end, who's just ranked 2 players below at number 19. So that's 2 5-stars on the defensive line right there. Maybe they're going to get back to old ways because they weren't all that great at stopping the run in that last year. And they just didn't look like the Alabama defense of old. And so I guess 2 anchors on the defensive line, you can't complain at all with that. And one's 6'3", 230, the other 6'3", 220, both weak side defensive ends. So they're probably the same player pretty much. If you're an Alabama fan, I think you breathe a sigh of relief at this, that high-end defensive prospects still see Alabama as place to go, even though Clemson is bringing in the better D-line haul. Alabama is still relevant, and we're not going to doubt them for a couple of years at least. So in between those 2 players is number 18, Jalen Carter, defensive tackle, and he's going to Georgia. So 6'3", 301, so he's a big dude. Very heavy, and he'll be a run stopper kind of guy, a bit like a Tyler Clark, I think, for Georgia. He'll come in, and again, like Keely Ringo, he'll start. He won't start, but he'll get plenty of playing time as a freshman, just because Kirby loves to rotate so much. And I think he'll play a Tyler Clark role, hopefully to a more elite level. Tyler Clark was pretty good, but Jalen Carter being a 5-star, his ceiling is much higher. So hopefully he can reach that ceiling at Georgia. So now Georgia's going to have, Jalen Carter, Trayvon Walker, Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson, Malik Herring, Jordan Davis. This Georgia defense is starting to look really juicy. I'm going to go say it now. They'll be the best defense in the country again. And I don't want to be a homer, but I think it's pretty hard to argue that at this point. So let's go down to number 20, Demarcus Bowman, running back, 5-star, obviously 5'9", 191, and he's going to Clemson. So I guess he'll be he'll obviously be ETN's understudy this year, and then next year might make the backfield his own. I actually haven't watched anything of this guy, so he looks a bit small, but I trust Clemson to do what they can do with him. Obviously higher ranked than ETN coming out of high school, and Clemson's just reloading. Like that's all there is to it. Texas A&M really needs good guys in the secondary because watching their defense over Texas A&M really needs good guys in the secondary because watching their defense over the last couple of years, they really sell out to stop the run, and they're actually quite good at stopping the run. At least 2 years ago, I would have to reconfirm about last year, but I don't think much changed. But what it did was it left a lot of the defensive backs in one-on-one coverage. And over the last 2 years, A&M really hasn't had the guys that can, really shut opposing wide receivers down. And so guys like Jalen Jones, a 5-star safety, is really necessary for Texas A&M and the style of defense they play, where they really put a lot of guys up in the box, shut down the run nicely, but then, like I said, leave their DBs kind of exposed. So that's a great get for Texas A&M. If I'm Texas A&M, I'm so happy with Jalen Jones, 5-star safety, definitely a position of need. And Jimbo Fisher's doing a great job with this class. I'm very happy with that if I'm an A&M fan. Number 22, Drew Sanders, athlete, 6'5", 232, committed to Alabama again. So I think he'll probably play linebacker. And he'll be very tall for a linebacker. I don't really know what position I see. I'm sure Alabama fans will be able to tell me. I think it'll be linebacker. But yeah, he's just a super athletic guy who I don't even know how to. Depends where he plays, I guess. I mean, I should know this kind of thing. If he's a linebacker, he's quick. He's very tall for a linebacker. I could see him maybe in a pass rushing role as well. Maybe he's an outside linebacker. He's obviously quick if he's played offense as well. So he might be good in coverage. And yeah, Nick Saban defense, it's reloading. We don't want to doubt the Nick Saban defense. Like I said, with those other defensive ends before, it's Alabama is still looking to rebuild their defense to kind of get to where they were in the past. And guys like Drew Sanders, Chris Braswell, Will Anderson, like that's the perfect place to start. All in the front seven, I believe. And in the SEC, the front seven is so important. Alabama defenses of the past always had dominant front sevens. So I think that's obviously a great get from Alabama. He decommitted from Oklahoma a while ago. So obviously big loss for them. But, who wants to play defense at Oklahoma, right? Number 23, Darnell Washington, athlete, 6'7.5", 260, and he's going to Georgia. So he's a tight end. This guy's huge. He'll win every contested catch. I'm really happy with him. Hopefully we can just use him in our offense. We had a 5-star tight end, Isaac Nada, a while ago, and he was a little underwhelming. He left as a junior with only like 400 receiving yards in 1 year, which I guess isn't that bad in that anemic Georgia offense. But Darnell Washington, we've got to use him properly. He'll be used to block, but he's the kind of guy who can just make plays down the field. What are you going to do? Put a 6-foot safety on him in man coverage? He's 6'7". He's winning that battle every time. And so Georgia has a lot of fast guys, kind of a lot of twitchy guys, and like Dominic Blaylock, and now guys like Jermaine Burton. Then they got kind of more aggressive guys on the outside, like Marcus Rosemary, George Pickens. And so I think Darnell Washington is a great complement to that kind of passing attack with all his height, and he'll just be dominant over the middle. I think he's probably not as quick as a Rick Gilbert, but they'll be able to spread him out wide and just create mismatches with that height and athletic ability. So number 24, Kayshawn Booty, is that his name? Booty. 6 foot 180 going to LSU. Again, LSU with another wide receiver. So they got a tight end who's as good as any wide receiver in Rick Gilbert, and now Kayshawn Booty as well, again, LSU, that's the third 5-star we've gone through so far. So what can you say? Yeah, LSU reloading again. Obviously, they're changing their identity. to a spread team. They were very, very successful that last year, and now more and more wide receivers are going to want to play there. I think LSU will be the kind of place to go for wide receivers and quarterbacks if they keep this kind of thing up. I know they're losing Joe Brady, but 5-star receivers are wanting to go to LSU, and they're going to actually be utilized now, unlike in the past where they kind of wasted some of those talents. He'll probably get playing time. They still got Terrace Marshall and Chase there, so they're still stacked at the pass catching position. I think Miles Brennan is going to be great. Like everyone's saying, Joe Burrow's gone, they won't be anywhere near as good. Miles Brennan is still a good quarterback. Like he was a 4-star. He was ranked higher than Joe Burrow coming out of high school, I believe. And a lot of people saying he has a stronger arm and stuff. He probably won't be as good at decision making. Probably won't have the mobility Burrow had. But no, the guy's no slouch at all. So I mean, he'll utilize guys like Booty and other wide receivers and all that. So yeah, LSU's passing attack, I think it's obviously not going to be as good as it was last year, but it's not going anywhere, right? Number 25, Damon Demas. I am butchering these names. I'm so bad at names, guys. Going to Texas A&M as a wide receiver. So again, I just said A&M just needs playmakers, just needs names, needs difference makers that all over the field, because they're going to be a well-coached team, and I think this will go well with Haynes King, their quarterback of the future. 5-star wide receiver, 6'3", 182, so he's pretty tall, lengthy guy, and 5-star safety, 5-star receiver. I think that's what A&M needs, especially as offenses can kind of continue to spread out a bit more. I really hope that Jimbo Fisher kind of lets Kellen Mond use his legs a bit more and play in the shotgun a little bit more and kind of, move all over the field and really spread this offense out. Like his old kind of pro style systems he had at Florida State, I think are just going to become more and more outdated. And so a big, tall 5-star wide receiver, like what more could you want if you're trying to do that? So number 26, Trenton Simpson, outside linebacker, and he's going to Clemson. I mean, what can you say? Clemson, again, outside linebacker, a guy who was committed to Auburn, flipped. Actually, I don't know if he flipped. I think he just decommitted and then committed to Clemson. Again, so outside linebackers and defensive line, absolutely stacked. Clemson's front seven will continue to be dominant. There's not much more I can say on that, really. Rakeem Jarrett, wide receiver, going to Maryland. Okay, so this is interesting because he was committed to LSU, right? And then decommitted and goes to Maryland. So maybe Rakeem Jarrett doesn't have my faith in LSU's passing attack. I mean, he's from DC, so he's obviously going a lot closer to home. Hold on one sec. 6 foot, 208. I mean, he'll be the man at Maryland. He's going to go straight to the top of the depth chart, I presume. And Mike Locksley's there, offensive coordinator, head coach there, right? So he's he's a spread guy. He knows how to throw the ball around the field. So he's going to like a reasonable school. I think he wants to go to a place where he can just be the man from day one and just put up huge numbers, have a DJ Moore type career, probably even better. So I guess, I mean, is it going to make Maryland a factor? Like, no, they're not going to be good. But, I mean, they might be okay, but they're not going to be. Obviously, no one's picking Maryland to do anything special. But I think for Rakeem Jarrett's perspective, maybe going to Maryland was just like a personal move. He's a guy that wants to go to the NFL. He wants to be, given his shot from day one. And I think he'll get that at Maryland. So from what he's probably trying to achieve, it might have been the right move. Jackson Smith, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. 5-star wide receiver going to Ohio State. So Ohio State with 2 5-star wide receivers. I think they had 2 5-star wide receivers last year as well. So they're just, Justin Fields is just going to have so many weapons on the field at once. And like their Big Ten dominance, I don't think it's going anywhere. How do you stop all those guys? You've got like 4 5-star wide receivers. Let me check that. Let me check the Ohio State class last year. I'm pretty much certain they had at least one. But yeah, so 2 5-star wide receivers in 2020. And in 2019, they had This is very professional. Yeah, Garrett Wilson, 5-star wide receiver, and okay, so Jameson Williams, 4-star wide receiver the year before. Even still, he was very highly ranked. Um, Even still, like, what can you say? They're just reloading. They will have an insane passing attack. Um, and I mean, who in the Big Ten is going to be able to stop it? Like, oh, Michigan got a 5-star safety, Daxon Hill last year. You know, like, he might be a great player, but it's going to take a lot more than that to slow down all these wide receivers and pass catches at Ohio State, especially with a quarterback like Justin Fields. So Ohio State's going nowhere. Then we got Savell Smalls, and he is weak side defensive end / outside linebacker going to Washington, 6'4", 244. And this is a good get from Washington because he's from Washington. I guess the Pac-12 is really looking to kind of change their mentality, and I think they want to show they're serious. And 5 stars committing to those schools is on the defensive side of the ball is a good showing of faith. And the Pac-12 has been a pretty trashed conference for the last few years, so I think it's good that some big name defensive players are kind of staying home on the West Coast, because we don't want all college football to be like concentrated in the Southeast. It's more fun when it's just like a national thing, and teams like Oregon and Washington are doing fantastically well. And I guess these teams as well are benefiting off USC being so down. Guys who in the past might have committed to USC, who are now going to Oregon or going to Washington instead. So when USC eventually comes back, which they will eventually, we'll see how that continues. But maybe by then, Oregon, Washington have created such a big brand that that players want to go there anyway. So I don't know. I think the future's bright for the Pac-12 at this rate. Next, we have Dante Manning, 5-star cornerback going to Oregon. So, I mean, like we said, Oregon's got some big name recruits up front, but then having one at the back end as well is going to be great, because the Pac-12 is still the Pac-12, and there is still a lot of passing, and there are some good wide receivers in the Pac-12. He's going to come against guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I mean, I don't know much about Oregon's cornerback situation, but they're playing Ohio State in week 1 or 2, and they're going to need guys like him. Like we just said, who's going to shut down those Ohio State wide receivers? Well, starting with a 5-star cornerback for Oregon is a good place to begin. For them, it might not be enough, but that's exactly the kind of position you want to have a 5-star in if you're going to, because that Ohio State Oregon game is going to be a bit like Texas A&M. I mean, not Texas A&M. Texas LSU was last year, where it's just kind of, if you don't win that game, you're more or less not going to be able to make the playoff. I think even if Ohio State goes undefeated in the Big Ten and everything, I think if they lose to Oregon, I don't think they make the playoff. And same with Oregon. It's like they lost to Auburn last year, and it just kind of, I know then they lost to Arizona State as well, but that Auburn loss really kind of, that was a nail in the coffin from week 1 pretty much. So this Ohio State Oregon game is going to be awesome. I can't wait for this, because it's such a big game in terms of like determining a lot of the playoff picture and everything in college football, but it's between a Pac-12 and a Big Ten team. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Something a little different, Oregon's got a great future, and if they can get back to their old offensive ways, like whoever replaces Justin Herbert and that, if they can still put up like reasonable offensive numbers, but with the defense that they're growing, they're going to be great. And the last 5-star, Michael Mayer, tight end out of Kentucky. This dude looks like an absolute Chad. Look at that jaw. And he's going to Notre Dame. Yeah, so Notre Dame with their first 5-star. They've got Jordan Johnson, who's the number 5 ranked 4-star in the country. So pretty much as good as a 5-star. So they've got some pass catchers now. And I think Notre Dame will kind of continue to be where they were. Tight end is a bit of a whatever position. As in, obviously it matters. Every position matters in a team sport like this, but we'd all rather a 5-star defensive end or quarterback or something like that than a tight end. But, you'll never complain with a 5-star at any position. Michael Mayer, that's a good get for Notre Dame. I think they'll continue to be where they are. Their recruiting has been pretty good lately, but I think they're going to kind of need to I mean, the 17 commitments really bumped them down the rating, so I don't know if that's fair. They have some guys. I think they could find themselves back in the playoff eventually, depending on their quarterback situation. Um, like they got Ian Book coming back again. They lose a lot of guys on defense though. Uh, it would be good to see them kind of. I guess they broke through their kind of glass ceiling 2 years ago, but then just got absolutely destroyed by Clemson in the playoffs. So it kind of really amounted to nothing. I don't know. I kind of see them continuing to stay where they are. They got good players, but I don't think they'll ever be like a national championship contender, at least in the near future. But who knows what could happen if they keep putting together like reasonably good years. Um, I think they're playing Clemson or something this year. So like, sheesh. But if they keep putting together reasonably good years, recruits will keep coming, and then maybe they can use that momentum. And then every 5 years or so, they'll have like the roster that can kind of make a push for it. Um, and like just now, think about it, like they played the national championship in 2012, got destroyed, and they were in the playoff 2 years ago, got destroyed. So they've come close, but then there's kind of just another hump that they need to get over. So I'm just going to go through a few more names quickly. The number one ranked 4-star was a 5-star this whole time until like very recently. Mikael Sherman going to Georgia. Clemson got another defensive tackle, 4-star. Florida State's got their first commitment, a corner, Damori Tate. So good get for them, showing some people still have faith in their program. As I go down the list, I see North Carolina, Desmond Evans. So he's a highly ranked 4-star going to North Carolina, like I said. And that's a great get for them. So Mac Brown is I think he's building something special at North Carolina. I'm not saying they'll really contend, but they'll be a consistent top 25 team at least. We got USC's first commitment. Some more Notre Dame guys. That's interesting. All right, maybe they're recruiting a bit better than I thought. Penn State with Theo Johnson as well. So they've got two highly ranked tight end. Oh, no, wait. Penn State. No, I'm getting confused with Notre Dame. Sorry about that. Very unprofessional. Jace McClellan, Alabama running back, who was a 5-star for most of his recruitment, and he's just kind of dropped down some rankings lately, but still good get for Alabama. Justin Rogers, defensive tackle, go to Kentucky. So I'm pretty sure this is Kentucky's highest ever recruit or something like that. Good get for them. Good get for them. And I just see all these Clemson paws everywhere going down the list, and like a lot of Georgia players, Kendall Milton, Marcus Rosemary. That's good to see. Cedric Von Pron and Aaron Smith. So Georgia has the rightly deserved number one recruiting class this year. Wisconsin all the way down. Yeah, more LSU. It's kind of the same call. Oh, we finally find Michigan's first commit. Yeah. Sorry, Michigan fans. I was high on you last year, but yeah, it didn't come together, and I don't see how you're ever beating Ohio State at this rate. I just don't. That JJ McCarthy kid's gonna have to be really, really good in order to end that drought. You're just not recruiting at that level. I know last year's recruiting class was way better than this, but you gotta have a top 10 recruiting class 3 years in a row, I reckon, if you want to be kind of a really dominant force, at least 3 years in a row. That's all I can say, really. I'll see you on the next stream, and till then, have a good time. Don't know where that came from. So go Dogs, number one in recruiting. That's what we like to see. All right, see you next time. Bye.